when we think about human change, we think about how do you influence a human being, so that's someone like me or you, just a normal person, to do something different or to do something new. And it's really important because if you look at project program management, the things we're all familiar with and have used for the last 40 years to help us deliver change in organizations, they focus on an outcome or an output, and it's often something that's very tangible. It'll be a new building being built, it'll be a new organization being created from a merger or an acquisition, or it'll be a new piece of software or technology that we want to deploy. And all of those things are nice, tangible things that we can reach and touch and feel. But actually, none of them realize the benefit that they were intended for unless real human beings do something different. So if you deliver a new software system to me, unless I actually use it the way you intended it to be used and change the way I work, we won't get the benefits of that new software. If there's a new process that I have to follow, it's my decision as a human being about whether I follow that new process and follow it the way it was designed. And so all of the things that realize the benefits and the sustainable benefits from change in an organization are about human beings like you and me making choices. We have to find a way to influence those choices, to help human beings on that journey to do something new and do something different. And that's what we mean by human change. First of all, you have to understand a little bit around how we as human beings respond to change. The traditional approach to doing change in projects and programs is we might do a comms plan. We'll tick the box and say we've got a communications plan. And what the communications plan often does is it just tells people what they need to do differently. Now, you might be a little bit different to me, but generally speaking, if someone tells me I've got to change, I'm not necessarily the first person to leap at that opportunity just because I've been told. And that's understanding the psychology of change and how as human beings we respond to change. So the approach that we take is actually based around some research that an organization did called ProSci. They came up with a little mnemonic called ADKAR, and it describes the human change journey that people go through and how you can influence that human change journey. And it's a very simple 5-step process, and it talks through what we call awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. And that's what ADKAR means. But to put that into real terms, imagine you've ever been in the situation where maybe your significant other says to you, you know, it'd be really good if you got a bit fitter, if you did a bit more exercise. So I now have awareness that actually there's maybe a change that I need to make. It's awareness that's come about by my significant other encouraging me to do that. Do I have any desire to go to the gym? Do I have any desire to change my lifestyle? Well, that's the next question for me. And actually, I won't move down a change journey until I've got to a place of desire. The desire comes from me understanding, actually, why would I want to do that? What's in it for me? And that might be, I can go and achieve some things that I always wanted to achieve if I was a bit fitter. Or it might be that we can do things together with my significant other that we couldn't do before. So I've started to understand desire, but I then need knowledge. How would I go about doing that? And that might be some educational stuff. It might be about understanding actually some information about diet or about exercise that helps me get fitter, that works for me. And then when I've got knowledge, I have to have the ability to do something different. In that context, that might be famously joining a gym, or it might be, in my case, getting a mountain bike that allows me to get out because I enjoy cycling and it builds that fitness. So I've now got the ability to do something different. And the final step is reinforcement. So my significant other might be encouraging me to do it, but equally I might have set myself some goals or some targets that incentivize me to keep with that change and to see that change through. But what that ADKAR process does is it helps us to understand, and that, that's a very simple example of a sort of out of work context, but it helps us to understand how as human beings we don't change just because people tell us to. We change because we've gone through a human change journey. We've gone through a process of understanding awareness, of building desire to do something different, knowing how to do something different, having the ability to do it, and then reinforcing those changes. And that's how we support the human change journey. If you're doing a major transformation, there's a couple of things you really need to get right up front. First step for me would always be around clarity of purpose. And clarity of purpose is around really understanding, why are we doing this? What is it we want to achieve? How are we going to go about it? And that's about purpose, not necessarily about solutions, because when we're on a change journey, sometimes the way we get there will change. When we set ourselves an ambition that's 3 years away, the world might be very different in 3 years' time, as we've all found out in recent history. So it's not necessarily about being crystal clear on what that solution looks like or what that outcome looks like, but it is about having a good clarity on the purpose. Why are we doing this? What do we want to achieve? How are we going about it? My second step would then be to build what I would call a change plan. And I'll use that language quite specifically rather than a project or a program plan, because traditionally what we've done with major changes, major transformations, is we've sat down, we've done project plans or program plans, we've done program briefs and descriptions that talk about the structure of the program and how we're going to deliver it. But they tend to be quite focused on tasks, on activities, on physical things. A change plan for me does all of that, but it also has an equal focus on the human change journey. And it builds out a structured programmatic approach, but a structured programmatic approach to how we move the human being through that change journey. Because, as we've discussed previously, there is no change in an organization until human beings do something different. And so actually our change plan has to bring together all of that structural, tangible, task-based activity with the human change activity that helps people to make choices, to do something different, and actually adopt the changes into the organization that we're trying to make. They're the key steps for me in realizing sustainable change and transformation. Leadership, we found, is absolutely critical to realizing sustainable change in organizations. It's really tempting to think that change, we set a direction and change just kind of happens, but actually that's not the way it works. Change needs to be led, and it needs to be led intentionally. There needs to be a sense of direction, but there also needs to be a real sense of consistency and congruence with the leadership around where we want to go and how we want to go there. As human beings, we tend to look to the people around us for direction and a sense of, actually, is this real? Is this true? Are people actually living out the things that they're telling us that they want to achieve? And we look to our leaders for that sort of direction. Now, the challenge with leading change is that as leaders, we're successful in what we do. That's how we've got to where we are. But we often have done that through our technical competency. So if I was in finance, I could be really good at accountancy. If I was in operations, I might be an excellent operations manager. So we have technical competency. We also have business competency. So we understand how our business works, the market that we operate in, what makes us successful. But when it comes to leading change, we talk about behavioural competency. Actually, how as a leader do I understand how to engage with people? How do I understand how to take them through that human change journey? It's a combination of business psychology, emotional intelligence, and leadership skills that help me engage and support my team and my organisation through realising sustainable change and through that change journey. So being able to create that sense of behavioural competency, that sense of change leadership, is absolutely critical to successful change. And what we also find is it's not necessarily a common skill and capability that leaders have, because we've got to the position we've got in organizations by being really good at what we do. We might be an amazing operations person, we might be an amazing accountant, we might be an amazing salesperson, but then the success of our organization suddenly becomes critically dependent on our ability to lead change. And that's where there's suddenly a, whoa, what's this all about? So building those competencies and capabilities around behavioural leadership, around change leadership, are absolutely critical to successfully realising sustainable change. So shifting culture or behaviours at an organisation level or even a large team level is really challenging. And some of that challenge comes because what's culture? We often work in organisations where they have posters on the wall that says, these are our values, this is the way we are. But they're posters on the wall. When I walk into an organisation, I don't define the culture by what's written on the wall. I define the culture by the experience I had when I was interacting with that organisation. So when we're looking to support an organisation to shift culture, what we're really thinking about is, so what are the experiences you want to create, either for customers or for colleagues, because it's that experience that defines your culture. We've developed a tool we call values journeys, and basically what those values journeys do is they help everyone in the organisation, from leadership right through the different levels of the organisation, to understand actually what are the experiences that I want to create for other people around me. It very simply says the experience that I have is built on the behaviours of the person I'm interacting with. It's that human connection that defines culture. And so those behaviours that are exhibited within the organisation become really important. And we find ways of describing those behaviours in consistent ways. We think about what are the values that drive those behaviours. So they might be the organisation's values, they might be the individual's values, but how do we interpret those values, those North Stars, those principles that are really important to us through the way we behave? And then how do those behaviours create experiences for colleagues and customers that then define the culture of the organisation? If we just did that, that would give us a set of consistent definitions of what culture looked like. But when we think about doing it for an organisation, we have to think about that human change journey again. Why would I want to do that? Why would I want to behave in that way? Why would I want to create those experiences? And so we continue the journey through, as we work with organisations and individuals, to think about what's actually happening with that experience. When I have that experience, I'm actually creating a belief based on that experience. So if it's a really good experience, I'm creating a belief that that's a really good organisation to work with if I'm a customer. If it's not such a good experience, I'm creating a belief that actually, well, I wouldn't go there again, not so happy with that organisation. And the really interesting thing with beliefs is they trigger my actions. So a belief I create in a very quick instance, in a very quick experience, probably dictates actions for me for quite a long time. And those actions might be going back to that organisation and using them again, or it might be actually telling other people to go and use that organisation. And those actions will then generate tangible results and outcomes for the organisation, be that in P&L measures, be that in customer satisfaction measures, or colleague satisfaction measures. So by having that second part of the journey, what we've done is we've helped people to understand actually why having that consistent culture is so important. We've given them the what's in it for me, which relates it back to the human change journey. So therefore we have a structured approach, a pragmatic approach that allows organisations to actually define what good looks like, what the experience and behaviours are that define the culture of this organisation, our very DNA. And then we have a way of helping everybody in the organisation have a consistent understanding of that. We're not saying we want to create clones or robots. We're saying we want people to be immensely diverse in the way they interact with each other, in the way they interact with the world around them. But we just want them to have some clarity around actually, this is the way we work around here. this is what's really important to us. And when you interact with us as an organisation, this is what we want you to remember about us. And then that creates that shift in culture, that shift in organisations that's congruent, that's understood, that becomes the very DNA of the way the organisation works.